I find the story of the Atari Jaguar and the Nintendo 64 to be extremely similar. Uncanny, I would say. I would like to just talk about the designs. If you look at the design of the Atari Jaguar, I mean, it looks like a UFO. And, you know, both consoles are black. They got the dent in the middle. Got that dent, you know, folds in. And the N64 has that dent also. Like their designs are like so similar. The Atari Jaguar was released in 1993 and the Nintendo 64 was released in 1996. And it's like this is what Nintendo always wanted in 1993. And in 1993 and 1994 on the Super Nintendo they released Donkey Kong Country and Star Fox, which had early 3D graphics. And also in 1995 Nintendo released the Virtual Boy. So they always wanted that 3D big console. They wanted that 3D shit to impress people. And Atari did it first. And then when the N64 was released, it's like they ripped off the console design from the Atari Jaguar because they were so jealous. I can see the similarities between them, can't you guys? The dent, right in the middle. And it's also near the cartridge slot. There's no fold here. There's a fold here to protect from dust. They both look like a weird UFO. It's just so similar, you know? You got the controller ports right in the front. You got the Atari logo in between the controller ports. Same thing. You got the Nintendo 64 logo in the middle, in between the controller ports. These things right here, these little designs here, the lines, you see that? What do you call this? What do you call that? It's the same thing. They took that, you see? The lines. The lines are the same. And also the Atari Jaguar is 64-bit. So is the Nintendo 64. So even Nintendo took the idea of making a 64-bit game console after Atari. They wanted a 64-bit console. And Nintendo was like, oh no, we're going to do it better. We're going to take our time. But Atari was desperate. And they released the 64-bit console early. When the original console idea was supposed to be the Atari Panther, which was supposed to be 32-bit. But Atari decided to leap ahead instead. I love the Atari Jaguar and I love the N64. And two of these are some of my favorite game systems of all time. But I definitely love the N64 way more. The N64 is my favorite game console of all time. I just think it's fascinating because, you know, both these consoles are both 64-bit and they're both early 3D game design. The console design is the same. Nintendo just took everything from Atari. From the design, from the 64-bit. Even the stuff on the back is similar, although that stuff is similar, you know, on every game console. But still, you know, it's got the gap. That's kind of like the back of the Jaguar. You got that big gap back there. You know, both are very weird-looking game design, console designs, because these were new kinds of consoles. Ooh, 3D was a new kind of game system, because all the ones before that were 2D and shit. So it's like, ooh, we gotta change it up, you know. And the Atari Jaguar had really weird controllers, and so did the N64. And they were both trying to be weird and 3D and, you know, ooh, that was the big hip thing in the late 90s, baby. You got stuff on the side here. See, all that, these things here, the lines, like I said earlier. You see that in the middle here, the lines. Yeah, it's the same. There's only one power button for the Jaguar, but, you know, then there's the power button for the N64 right over here. I mean, they're close in position. And then there's a reset button on the N64. At the bottom. Right? Now it's similar. You got all this stuff here. The lines just for interesting, cool designs. You get the lines. You know. You can see through like some of the wires and stuff they make the system out of underneath the lines, right? Same thing on the N64. See the lines? That's right. Console design is the same. So basically, if you look at these, what's interesting is that the only difference is that the Atari Jaguar, the dent goes in, whereas on the N64 the dent goes up. So it's like a hump that goes up. On the Jaguar, it's like in. It's like someone like pancaked the center, and here's someone like punched the bottom, and it's like up. It's the only difference. Down and up. Maybe it's analogy. You know, like Nintendo was like everything from the concept and the console design was all a rip-off of what Atari already did. Nintendo was jealous of Atari. And all you need to do is just look at the consoles, the console designs, and all that history of all those 3 years, 93, 94, 95, leading up to the N64 release, and you look at what Atari did when they released this in 1993. Something else I'd like to mention is that most retro video game consoles had end labels on the cartridges for their game consoles. What are the two game consoles that do not have any end labels at all, and the only two ever in history? The Jaguar and the N64, that's right. No end labels. Same thing. No end labels. Another similarity they both share. It's just amazing, isn't it? It's just similar, right? No end labels. You look at the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, whatever. They all had end labels, not these two. These were too cool for the end labels. They were all about the graphics. Put that shit in. You don't need end labels anymore. That's for the early 90s, baby. We're now in the late 90s. Well, the mid-late 90s. Another thing you guys need to remember is that in the NES days, Atari had a subsidiary called Tengen, and they released all these cartridges on the NES, but Nintendo was pissed off at them, and because they had a policy that you can only release a certain amount of games per year, and Atari was like, fuck that, and they actually bought NESs. Atari people, execs at Atari, bought NESs just to open inside, and they broke the code, and they actually just flooded the NES with all these Tengen games. And Nintendo tried to sue them and all this shit. But anyway, I can't remember. I think Nintendo may have lost, or maybe they won. I don't remember anymore. But Nintendo was pissed at them for that. So you think about it, it's like Nintendo was already pissed off at Atari. They were already on bad terms with them. So this whole idea of getting revenge on Atari by ripping off their idea, by having their own 64-bit super console. It's like their way of, is it their way of getting revenge for the whole Tengen debacle? Let me know what you guys think. Am I insane? Am I reading too deep into it? I don't think so. Let me know what you guys think. Check you later.